You step into the forest. A single twig snaps under your boot. You don't feel anything change, but everything has. In every direction, unseen, dozens of animals have just gone still. A deer freezes mid-step. A fox flattens itself against the dirt. Birds that were singing a heartbeat ago fall completely silent. You didn't roar. You didn't charge. You barely made a sound. And yet to almost every living thing within earshot, the most terrifying predator on Earth just walked in. Why? Why is the entire animal world so afraid of you? Look at yourself for a second. You're slow. You can't climb well. You have no claws worth the name, no fangs, no venom, no armor. Stand you next to a leopard or a wolf, and your body looks almost like a joke. Soft, exposed, easy. And still, across nearly every continent, wild animals treat the sound of your voice like a 5-alarm emergency. For a long time, scientists assumed this was an overstatement. Surely animals feared real heavyweight killers, lions and tigers and bears, far more than they feared some soft little human humming to himself on a hiking trail. That just made sense. Then someone decided to actually test it. In the greater Kruger region of South Africa, two biologists named Liana Zanette and Michael Clinchy from Western University in Canada set up a quiet experiment that would unsettle a lot of assumptions. They hid speakers around waterholes deep in the bush. Then they waited for the animals to come drink. A waterhole is the most dangerous gamble in an animal's day. You have to expose yourself in the open. You have to lower your head. For a few seconds, you are vulnerable. So whatever an animal hears in that moment, it takes extremely seriously. And what the researchers played through those speakers was a test of pure fear. Sometimes a lion, growling and snarling. Sometimes barking dogs and gunshots. And sometimes something far gentler. Human beings simply talking. Calm voices. People reading the news, chatting, saying ordinary, nothing much. You'd expect the lions to clear the waterhole fastest. The lion is the apex predator of that whole landscape. The king. That is not what happened. The animals, giraffes, elephants, antelope, warthogs, leopards were roughly twice as likely to run from the sound of a human voice as from the sound of a lion. They abandoned the waterhole faster. They ran farther. When a human voice came through the speaker, the savanna emptied. Sit with that for a moment. The animals of Africa are more frightened of you murmuring than of a lion announcing it wants to eat them. So this isn't your imagination. The fear is real, it's measurable, and it's almost universal. The question is where it comes from. Why would a leopard, an animal that could kill you in seconds, treat you as the scarier thing in the dark? The answer is written into how your species hunts. In 2015, an ecologist named Chris Darrimont at the University of Victoria led a study published in the journal Science, and the numbers in it are genuinely staggering. His team compared how humans kill prey to how other predators do it. What they found is that humans kill adult prey animals at rates far higher than any other predator in nature, in some cases more than 10 times higher. But the rate isn't even the scariest part. It's the target. A wolf, a lion, a shark. Almost every wild predator preys mostly on the weak, the old, the sick, the very young, the ones already destined to fall. It's efficient and it's gentle on the prey population because the breeding adults survive to make more. You do the opposite. Human hunters go after the prime, the biggest buck, the strongest fish, the animal in the fullness of its power. No other predator on Earth systematically removes the healthiest, most reproductive members of a species the way humans do. Darrimont's team had a name for what we are. The super predator, a killer so unlike anything else in nature that the normal rules of predator and prey don't apply. So when an animal fears you, it isn't being silly. It's responding to one of the deadliest forces life on this planet has ever encountered. Over thousands of generations, the animals that took humans lightly tended not to leave descendants. The ones that fled at the first whisper of a human voice survived to pass that terror on. And here's where it gets even stranger. That fear doesn't just scare individual animals, it reshapes entire ecosystems. A researcher named Justin Serassi, who has worked alongside Zanette and Clinchy, ran experiments in California where he played recordings of human voices into the wild. The effects rippled outward in every direction. Mountain lions, also called pumas, cut back how much they fed when they thought people were near. Smaller predators change their behavior because the mountain lions changed theirs. Even tiny animals down at the bottom of the food chain shifted their lives, all because of a sound. Scientists have a phrase for this invisible web of dread that radiates out from a predator. They call it the landscape of fear. And across much of the planet, the thing sitting at the center of that landscape, the thing everything else organizes its life around avoiding, is you. So let's reconstruct one ordinary evening to feel how this actually works. Picture a waterhole at dusk. Orange sky. The air finally cooling. An impala steps cautiously out of the brush, ears swiveling, nose working. It hasn't drunk all day. It's thirsty enough to take the risk. It lowers its head toward the water, and from somewhere in the reeds, it hears two humans talking softly, not shouting, not hunting, just talking. The impala doesn't finish its drink. It doesn't weigh the odds. It's already gone, bounding into the dark with its heart slamming, choosing thirst over the smallest chance of meeting you. Multiply that single decision across millions of animals every single day, and you start to see the true shape of your presence on this planet. You are the shadow that falls over the whole natural world. But now here's the twist that turns the entire story on its head. Animals are not born afraid of you. That terror is not stitched into them at birth like a fear of the dark. It is learned. It is taught, painfully, over centuries. And we know this for an unsettling reason. Because there are places where the lesson was never taught. And in those places, animals aren't afraid of humans at all. In 1835, a young naturalist named Charles Darwin landed on the Galapagos Islands. The animals there had evolved for ages, with no humans, no hunters, nothing that looked or sounded like you. And Darwin was astonished by what he saw. Birds landed on his shoulders. He could walk right up to them. He wrote that he could practically pluck them out of the trees with his hand. They simply did not understand that he was dangerous, because their ancestors had never had a reason to learn it. You've heard the most famous victim of this innocence, the dodo, a flightless bird on the island of Mauritius. The dodo wasn't stupid. It just lived in a world without predators, so it never developed fear. When humans arrived, the bird walked right up to them, curious and calm. Within a few generations, every dodo on Earth was gone. So the fear that empties a forest when you step into it isn't really about your shape or your smell. It's a memory, a lesson, written in blood, across thousands of years, carried in the instincts of every animal whose ancestors survived an encounter with your kind. The fear is the scar tissue your species left on the living world, which brings the whole thing back to you, today, standing on that trail meaning no harm at all, because the animals around you can't tell the difference. To a deer, a hiker with a camera, and a hunter with a rifle make the same silhouette and the same footstep. In 2018, a scientist named Caitlin Gaynor published a study in Science showing that animals all over the world are becoming more and more nocturnal, shifting their lives into the night, not to escape lions or wolves, but simply to avoid overlapping with us. They are rearranging their entire existence around the hours when you are asleep. Think about what that means. You can walk through the wilderness gently, kindly, wanting only to admire it, and you will still send a wave of fear ahead of you that bends the behavior of every creature for hundreds of yards. You don't have to do anything. You only have to exist and be human. So the next time you step into the forest and a twig snaps under your boot, you won't notice anything change. But everything will have, because to the deer and the fox and the silent birds in the trees, the most dangerous animal that has ever lived just arrived, and it's you,